Good evening, all, and welcome to Lullaby Legends with Lack. I'm your host, Caleb Lack, and in each episode I tell one or two short stories for you to relax by, spanning the range from the dawn of civilization to the age of information. This is a story from Uganda. It is the story of Nsangi and the Apes. Once upon a time, far away upon the mountains, there was a village in which the people were very unhappy, for some huge apes came every day and stole little children. There was one poor widow woman who had 3 small girls, and she hid them away in her house and never let them go out for fear the apes might see them. But every day her fears grew that she might lose her children, as other people in the village had lost theirs. And the little girls were growing weak and thin because they never went outside of their dark house, and they never got any fresh air or sunshine. At last, the woman went to a wise old tortoise and asked him, "Tell me what I can do to save my children from the apes." And the tortoise said, "Apes never take children who are over 12 years old. If you can hide your little girls till then, the apes will not touch them. But I should advise you to take them away to a cave in the mountainside, where they will get fresh air and have room to run around and see the sun shining." So the tortoise then slowly showed the woman a cave. It was big and airy and had a little entrance which could be closed by a stone inside and could not be opened from the outside. And it was there that the woman took her 3 little girls and showed them how to close the entrance when she was gone. And she told them not to open the door to anyone at all except herself. "I will come every day with a basket of food," she said, "and I will sing a song as I come so that you know it is me. If anyone comes to the door who does not sing my song, you do not open it." So she left the girls there. Now the next day the woman brought a basket of food, and she sang this song as she climbed up the path. "3 in a cave, 3 in a cave, only 3 in a cave. All day long while the sun is shining, all night long while the moon is shining. Only 3 in a cave, only 3 in a cave." Now, when the eldest girl was 12 years old, the woman was finally able to take her safely home, and the 2 younger ones missed, of course, their sibling, and they yearned for the years to pass so that they might leave the cave too. They wished to see other children, because in the cave they had no playmates but each other and the lizards that were in there. But it was still not safe until they were 12 years old. And the only glimpse they got of the outside world was when they opened the door for their mother, who now sang as she came, 2 in a cave, 2 in a cave, only 2 in a cave. All day long while the sun is shining, all night long while the moon is shining. Only 2 in a cave, only 2 in a cave." Then the day came when the second girl was 12 years old, and now only the little one, whose name was Nsangi, was left in the cave. She was lonely and cried very much, for now she had no one but the lizards to play with. But her mother said, "I will come earlier and stay longer with you every day, for now your sisters are at home and can do the work there." Now, this had gone on for several years, and there was one old ape who noticed suddenly that one of the houses had 2 little girls digging in their garden, and he wondered where they had come from, for he had never seen children in that house, and he watched and saw the woman go up the mountain path with a basket of food, and saw that as she climbed, she sang, "One in a cave, one in a cave, only one in a cave, all day long while the sun is shining, all night long while the moon is shining, only one in a cave, only one in a cave." Now, when the mother arrived at the cave, Nsangi ran out to meet her, and the old ape hid behind a rock very near. For several days he listened to the woman singing, and when he thought he had learned the song, he went to the cave door and sang it. But Nsangi heard it inside the cave and was terrified, for the ape's voice was like a hoarse old crow, and her mother's voice was beautiful, like a songbird. The old ape was very angry, so he went away into the forest and found a younger cousin of his who was a great mimic and could copy people's voices. Together, they hid behind the rock and listened while the woman sang for several days. Each time, Nsangi ran out to meet her mother and begged her to take her home, for the ape had been to the cave. The woman was very upset, but she said, "I must go home and tell your sisters, and then I will stay with you until you're 12 years old. Your sisters can bring us a basket of food every day. I must go now and make arrangements." When she had gone, the apes went after her, sprinkling sharp thorns on the path, and then they hurried back to the cave, and the young one sang, copying the mother's voice. It wasn't exactly right, but Nsangi was too frightened to notice the little mistakes. She was so glad that her mother had returned so quickly that she opened the door at once. The apes caught her, carried her away, right into the middle of the forest. She cried all the way, and wherever her tears fell, little white flowers sprang into blossom. Now, meanwhile, her mother had made all the arrangements at home and was returning to the cave. But every now and then, she had to stop and take a thorn out of her foot, and this delayed her mightily. At last, she reached the cave and found it empty. No Nsangi anywhere to be found. The lizards, who had been Nsangi's playmates for years, came up to the mother and told her what had happened, and they told her to follow the trail of the little white flowers, which were, in fact, Nsangi's tears. The poor, very worried mother hurried back to the village and told the people what had happened, and the men came out with spears and knives to hunt the apes, and they followed the trail of little white flowers right into the middle of the forest, and here they found a big tree, which was, turns out, the king of the apes' palace. Up this tree the apes had carried Nsangi, but as they dragged her up, her foot was cut on a sharp branch, and the blood dropped down onto a creeper with thick green leaves. And wherever a drop of blood fell, a beautiful crimson flower blossomed, with big, soft, thick petals. The men prepared to make a big fire around the tree, and when the apes saw that the king's palace was going to be burned, they all gathered together to defend it. And there was a great battle, and many of the apes were killed. And finally, Nsangi was able to climb down out of the tree, and the men lit a fire and burned it to the ground. And that was the end of the king ape's palace. And since that day, all the apes have been afraid to go near villages, let alone steal children, for their mothers always tell them what happened to the king of the apes' palace. But the birds and the bees carried the seeds of the little white flowers all over the country. Even today, the old people still call them Nsangi's tears. And you can still find the crimson creeper vine with flowers of red, thick, soft petals, but only in the deep forests. Some people have never seen it, but there are some people who never see anything. Our next tale from Uganda is called The Leopard, the Hare, and the Monkey. Once upon a time, a leopard and a hare lived together in one house. One day the leopard said, "Let us go to the village and steal goats." The hare did not want to steal a goat, but he wanted the leopard to go and bring back some meat. So he thought of a trick and agreed to what the leopard said. They started out in opposite directions, but the hare soon doubled back and followed the leopard, who crept up the hillside towards a goat that was grazing all by itself, and then sprang on it. Then the hare shouted, and the leopard, thinking the goat herds had seen him, dropped the goat and ran away. The hare dragged the goat under some bushes, and after waiting till everything was quiet and safe, took it home. The leopard was very surprised and rather sulky. When the meat was nearly cooked, the hare went outside the house and shouted. The leopard thought the herdsman had followed them back, and he dashed out, fled into the forest, and did not return until the morning, by which time the hare had eaten up all the meat. But he told the leopard that the herdsman had come and taken it all away. This cycle repeated itself several times, until a monkey who had watched them told the leopard of the hare's trick. And that evening, instead of running to the forest, he ran only a little way and then came back, and found the hare just sitting down to feast. Although he was very frightened, the hare managed to slip past the leopard and jumped into an anthill which had a large hole in the top. He crouched down as far as he could and was just out of reach of the leopard's claws. The ants make their home of very hard red earth, so that no storms or rain can wash it away. And the leopard knew better than to try to risk breaking all of his claws digging the hare out. So instead he shouted, "Foolish creature, I will fill up the hole with fire and burn you inside it. Do not think you will escape my wrath." He called to a crow who was sitting on a tree nearby, "Come, guard my prisoner while I collect firewood." But the crow never does anything for anyone. He's just too disagreeable. And besides, he didn't see why the hare should be burnt up in the anthill, so he answered, "I can't sit in the sun. The dust gets in my throat and makes me hoarse. I can't guard your prisoner. Find someone else." Just then, the monkey, who had told the leopard of the hare's tricks, came along. "Oh, my dear friend," said the leopard, "come and guard the wicked hare that you helped me catch. I'm going to burn him in the anthill." So the monkey sat on top of the anthill while the leopard went to collect firewood. As the monkey sat there, he heard the hare munching on something. "What are you eating?" he asked. "The white ants are swarming, and I'm eating them as they come up," said the hare. "I've never eaten such beautiful ants. They're a miracle of creation." "Give me some," said the monkey. "Well, lean down into the hole," said the hare. "I'm not angry with you, and he who eats alone has no joy. I'll give you a handful." The monkey leaned down into the hole, and the hare threw a handful of dust up into his eyes. The monkey sprang back, rolled off the anthill, and the hare jumped out of the hole and ran away. The crow, who was still sitting nearby, laughed and laughed and laughed. The monkey wiped the dust out of his eyes and looked at the ant hole, trying to figure out how he was going to fix this situation. "What shall I do when the leopard returns?" he asked the crow. "Put some seeds into the hole," said the crow, "and put some rubbish on them, and tell the leopard you've begun to build the fire for him." So the monkey did this, and when the leopard came back with the firewood, he piled it up over the hole and set it aflame. All of a sudden, one of the seeds gave a loud pop. "What is that?" said the leopard. One of his eyes is burning," said the monkey solemnly. Another seed gave a pop. "That's his other eye," croaked the crow. But now all the seeds were thoroughly hot, and they all began popping together, and the crow burst out laughing, and the monkey swung himself up into the tree and laughed until his sides hurt, and the leopard stalked back and forth and fumed with rage, for he knew the monkey was now playing a trick. Still, he waited until the fire burned out and the smoke blew away before he could look down in the hole and saw only ashes and twigs, and he knew the hare had escaped. And from that day until now, leopards have hated monkeys and kill them if they meet them in the forest. And the monkeys sleep high up in the trees among the branches that are too slender to bear the weight of the leopard, if he should think of climbing up in the night when he goes out hunting. That's all for tonight. I hope you enjoyed this story and that you will come back for more. If you have feedback, a suggestion, or a request, feel free to reach out and let me know. Good night, sleep tight, and don't let the Knocknitsa bite.